My name is Linda Vermillion, and I'm going to talk to you about t-shirts and how to prepare a t-shirt for a quilt. This quilt right here, I was blessed to make for my mother and father-in-law who used to do Habitat for Humanity builds. And I was able to find a really neat coordinating fabric that had nails and hammers. We all have t-shirts. Our children, we start out little, and I used to save my children's clothing just because I couldn't part with it some. And I am in the process of making one for my middle son. He's going to be 34. And this is some of his blocks. I took his Boy Scout uniform and incorporated his little scarf into it. I recommend you take off buttons when you send it to the quilters because you don't want them to break their machines. This is one of the blocks. This right here, some of y'all might remember Gillies. If you're real young, you don't. But Gillies was a little hangout when country and western music started and dancing and everything like that. And my mother-in-law bought this many years ago, probably before Andrew was born. And he wore it, and he liked fun t-shirts. This is a ship shape. That was a Royal Caribbean cruise. All of you ladies that are going on all the cruises, you want to save your t-shirts and you can make a quilt. This one here, I actually incorporated 2 t-shirts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take a regular size t-shirt and the process that you go through to prepare it and make it into a block. You want to start out and kind of audition your different shirts because your different shirts have different size logos on it. And kind of just look. You can see that this one has a larger block area. Some of them are small depending on if you're doing a child's quilt. You have like a 12.5-inch ruler. Now, if you've got some with very large logos, you can use a larger square. On this one here, I believe, I used a 15-inch square because of the dimension of the logos. What you want to do is you want to gather your t-shirts. Of course, you want to wash them. If you've got some that are old and stained, you can take and soak them in a mixture of OxyClean and borax. About 1/4 cup for a couple gallons, and just let it soak, and it'll take those old age stains out of it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to kind of estimate and look at my different shirts. This has a large area here. So this one is a 15-inch ruler, and that is what I used on this t-shirt quilt behind me. If you've got a children's quilt that you're going to be making, you can make it with a 12.5, or even your adult one. If you've got a whole bunch of them, you can just determine. You don't want to cut all of them 12.5, and then you've got one that you want to be larger. It doesn't hurt to have more t-shirt around, but it does hurt if you're going to cut off something that's very important. So, what you're going to do, and another thing with a t-shirt with children's, what you run into is necklines. You want to try to avoid this here if you can. Sometimes those motifs are up high. So you want to just kind of keep that in mind where you're going to do that. But what I do first is I just go ahead and cut the t-shirt in half. If it is, well, I say in half, cut the sleeves and the sides off. If it's a double, you don't want to ruin the motif in the back. And if it's not a double, you get great scraps to clean with. If you look, the sleeves make great things for cleaning. Okay. Cut that off. Now this, when you go to cut this part, you want to cut it at the, go ahead and cut it at the seam of the t-shirt. Doesn't have to even use a ruler. So what I do is I get all of these cut apart and just layer them, get them all prepared. Then what you're going to do, I've determined I'm going to use the 15-inch ruler. I don't want to cut my t-shirt out 15 inches right now. I want to look, and I want to cut it at least an inch extra around. You'll center and you're going to cut it around because we're going to put a stabilizer on it. It's better to have a little bit of a waste of stabilizer than it is to waste your shirt. So I have got, it's about a 17 by 17. And I'm going to press it and I'm going to put a stabilizer on it. I prefer a knit stabilizer. That's what I put on here is Armor Weft. And it comes in dark for your black t-shirts. And it comes in a light. So basically, I'm going to cut this comes 24 inches wide. And I'm going to cut a piece that's going to go ahead and cover my whole t-shirt that I cut out. Because, as I said, it's better to waste a little bit than to ruin your t-shirts. I had a student one time that she cut out all of her shirts before she came to class, and it was a little difficult because she only cut a small piece and didn't leave much for, but it can be salvaged, but you just want to make sure you give yourself plenty of room. And we're going to press the Armor Weft. It doesn't take a real strong setting to about a medium because it is knit and it can gunk up your iron or it can actually burn if you've got it too hot. So then we're going to come around. Let's say that this is all fused. And I'm going to cut out my square here. And that will give me my block. This right here is a very old t-shirt as well. I've got a picture of my oldest son wearing this as a baby. He walked through the kitchen and he had it as a nightshirt. So this gives you an idea of what our block's going to look like. It's nice and stable and it'll sew just like your fabric. It doesn't have stretch to it, and this is what gives you your block. Now if you have like a child's or you have, let's say there's the neckline comes up too high or anything like that, if you want to trim them down and do like a double, you can. This strip of, I'd say ribbon, Andrew, who I'm making this for, he wore blue jeans. And they had this down the side of the blue jeans. And so I incorporated that as a memory. You can add pictures to it. You can even, I've made a quilt out of silky pajamas. I had a friend that they had lost their great-grandmother and had 2 babies that were going to be born, and she asked me to make some baby quilts. And so we used the knit stabilizer, and it's a little, you know, you have to kind of work with it a little bit, but there's all kinds of things that you can do with t-shirts. You can make them different sizes. You can make it uniform. I decided to do this one scrappy. So I just was able to just pick up blacks and whites and incorporate them around the block to make this larger and around the total block. Here's a couple more. This one is from General Motors many years ago at their 129th anniversary. So there's lots of fun things that you can do and highlight those memories. And I thank you very much. Once again, I'm Linda from Stitchin.